My parents kicked me out after high school, forcing me to live in a tent in the woods. For months, I battled hunger, fear, and loneliness until a chance encounter with a kind stranger helped me turn my life around. The day I graduated high school was supposed to be one of the best days of my life. Instead, it was the day my world turned upside down. My parents, who I thought were proud of me, dropped a bombshell that morning. "It's time for you to leave, Clara," my mom said, her voice cold and matter-of-fact. "What?" I blinked, thinking I'd misheard. "We've done our part," my dad chimed in. "You're 18 now. You need to stand on your own 2 feet." It felt like someone had yanked the floor out from under me. There was no warning, no time to prepare. Just a packed duffel bag waiting by the door. "Where am I supposed to go?" I asked, panic rising in my chest. "That's for you to figure out," my mom replied, turning back to her coffee as if she hadn't just shattered my life. And just like that, I was on my own. I didn't have a job, a car, or even enough money for a cheap motel. My friends were either leaving for college or still living under their parents' roofs, and I was too embarrassed to ask any of them for help. After wandering around town all day, I ended up in a small wooded area on the outskirts. It wasn't much, but it was quiet and hidden, and I figured it would be safer than sleeping on a park bench. With the last $30 I had to my name, I bought a secondhand tent and a flashlight from a thrift store and set up camp near a stream. I told myself this would just be temporary, a week, maybe 2, until I could figure out what to do next. But days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Living in the woods was far from the adventure I'd read about in books or seen in movies. It was cold, damp, and terrifying. Every rustle of leaves at night felt like a threat, whether it was an animal or, worse, another person. Food was a constant struggle. I lived off granola bars I'd scrounge from gas stations, leftovers from dumpsters behind fast food places, and whatever canned goods I could scrape together from food banks. I bathed in the freezing stream, washing my clothes there too, hoping no one would find my camp. Finding a job felt impossible. I'd walk miles into town every day, filling out applications and trying to look presentable despite my circumstances. But without a phone or address, employers didn't take me seriously. The isolation was the worst part. My friends stopped texting me when they realized I wasn't going to parties or posting graduation selfies. At night, sitting alone by my tiny campfire, I'd replay my parents' words over and over in my head, wondering what I'd done to deserve being abandoned like this. About 2 months into my ordeal, I met someone who changed everything. Her name was Ellie, a middle-aged woman who lived out of her van by choice. I met her while rummaging through a dumpster behind a diner. Instead of judging me, she struck up a conversation. "You're new to this, aren't you?" she asked, her tone gentle but knowing. I nodded, embarrassed but too tired to deny it. Ellie became my lifeline. She taught me survival skills I'd never even considered: how to forage for food safely, how to make my tent more weatherproof, and where to find day labor gigs for quick cash. She also gave me something I hadn't felt in months: hope. "People will look at you and see someone who's down," she told me one night over a shared can of soup. "But this isn't who you are. It's just where you are right now. Don't let it define you." Following Ellie's advice, I started picking up odd jobs, cleaning yards, helping people move, even babysitting a few times. The pay was small, but I saved every penny I could. I finally scraped together enough money to buy a cheap gym membership, which gave me access to showers and a place to freshen up. With clean clothes and a little more confidence, I applied to every diner, cafe, and store I could find. Eventually, a small family-owned diner took a chance on me. The owner, Mrs. Reyes, didn't ask too many questions about my situation. She just handed me an apron and told me to start bussing tables. That job was my first real break. The pay wasn't much, but I got free meals and a sense of purpose. Mrs. Reyes even let me take leftovers home, which meant I finally stopped going hungry. After a few months, I saved enough to rent a room in a shared apartment. It wasn't much, just a tiny space with a mattress on the floor, but it was mine. It's been 6 years since I lived in that tent, and my life has changed in ways I never imagined. I worked my way up at the diner, eventually becoming a full-time server. Now, I'm attending community college part-time, studying social work. I want to help people who've been through what I have. I haven't spoken to my parents since the day they kicked me out. I've thought about reaching out, but every time I do, I remember how cold and indifferent they were. Maybe one day I'll forgive them, but for now, I'm focused on building a life that doesn't include their approval. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that we're all stronger than we think. Surviving those months in the woods taught me resilience, resourcefulness, and self-worth. My circumstances didn't define me, my choices did. Today, I have a stable job, a home, and a future I'm proud to call my own.